Thank you very much for the kind presentation. Fortunately, I already finished my PhD this year. First and foremost, I want to congratulate the editors of this exceptional book, whose collaborative effort has given certainly new life into soft power scholarship by embracing interdisciplinarity, as my colleague was saying, to its fullest extent. A special acknowledgement from myself is due to Professor Naren Chitty for his invaluable theoretical guidance throughout the writing process of my own chapter. Interestingly, and entering in my chapter, soft power studies haven't really delved deep into the realm of science communication. Of course, there has been talk about COVID-19, but there are other couple of good reasons why we think it's crucial to bridge this gap in soft power research. Firstly, science communication is a battleground for power struggles, and this has become increasingly evident in recent times, especially with the concerns about the political handling of infodemics and the rise of science denialism, which can be coupled with extremist political views on a global scale. Secondly, exploring the relationship between science communication and soft power allow us to theoretically dissect what kind of power is generated when science enters in the public domain. In the world of soft power studies, science has a double position. On one hand, it's associated with hard power because of its classical role in military advancements. On the other hand, it's also linked to soft power because science, technology, and the broader concept of progress or innovation, if you will, contribute to building positive images for countries and international institutions. As a kind of soft power, we can even view science as a sort of virtue, like wisdom, for instance, something that makes nations garner admiration from people living in other countries. Let me give you just a brief outline of the chapter's presentation. First off, I will point out how the field of science communication is a bit of a missing puzzle piece in nice original concept of soft power. Then I will show briefly how scholars in science communication see the relationship between power and the public communication of science. It turns out that in the world of science communication studies, power is seen as a struggle that takes at least two forms, whether it's science versus ignorance or science versus other systems of knowledge that, for one reason or another, do not neatly fit into scientific frameworks. After mapping rapidly that debate, we are turning to Foucault, Michel Foucault, work given his original way of linking power and knowledge, and because scholars like Lux and I have debated the legacy of Foucault, who is currently used in soft power studies. We will unpack Foucault's post-structuralist theory of power, a theory that suggests that power is a force that pushes individuals to talk about themselves. We are also adding Latour's perspective. According to Bruno Latour, the soft power of science communication is tied to a political unexpected that comes from non-human sources like microbes or technical artifacts. To wrap it up, we will emphasize the role of science communication in soft power. It's not just about mixing science with politics or purifying science from politics. It's about introducing unexpected linguistic innovations built from scientific jargon that can change the political way of talking. Nye acknowledges briefly the influence of science communication, citing examples like those of public service ads on cancer that make smoking look undesirable. However, Nye doesn't really dive into the theory behind how science communication exercises a specific soft power. Naren Chitty has this interesting take that soft power is this combo of virtue and virtuosity, which is tied to humanist values. So when it comes to science communication, it could be argued that is about attracting people by showcasing democratic values that science has, like freedom, cooperation, and progress, with or without the added flair or virtuosity, i.e., the art of crafting and delivering science in an effective and attractive way. However, what makes science and science communication different in terms of soft power? Can art, for instance, also be seen as virtues, as exposing humanist values? We think this calls for some exploration, especially when science, as you will see with Bruno Latour's work, involves non-humans, like microbes and technical instruments, to both create and question what is to be human. This means that the soft power of science cannot be only explained by humanist values, since science itself challenged the very concept of being human. According to science communication literature, power struggles in science communication can take at least two forms. It's either one, science against ignorance, or two, science against other knowledge systems. When it is seen as a face-off between scientific knowledge and ignorance, the struggle is fueled by the need to spread scientific know-how because living in a world full of technologies demands a certain level of scientific literacy. This is where science denialism appears as the major foe in this soft power struggle. Rejecting or being ignorant of science isn't just about missing out. It's like questioning the ways democracy works today that needs science and technology to function. Secondly, science communication can also be seen as a clash between scientific knowledge and other knowledge systems. This opens doors to lay people to get involved with scientific issues, voice their opinions, and discuss scientific matters that have social, political, and ethical impacts. In this view, people have their own types of knowledge that let them interpret scientific information when it matters in their lives. Lay people's perspective on science may clash with the social imaginaries that scientists and scientific institutions have about the application of science or about what the public wants. Science communication studies seem, however, to suggest that soft power appears whenever there's a clash over something, but they do not really tell us how the nature of the clash is linked to the specificities of scientific objects. Basically, they are saying that the political, ethical, social, or cultural environment around science determines how science communication soft power plays out. To understand what makes science a unique object of soft power, we will look into Foucault's conceptualization of the interplay between power, knowledge, discourse, and subjects in the inaugural volume of his History of Sexuality. In Foucault's perspective, the dynamics of power, particularly in the formation of a discourse around medical knowledge of sex, revolve around what he terms incitement to discourse. To illustrate, medical discussions on sex are focused on encouraging individuals to talk openly about their sexual experiences. Here, Foucault's conception of power takes on a productive nature, as it prompts subjects to articulate their thoughts, fostering a proliferation of discourse. Foucault provides a concrete illustration of this concept of productive power in the context of the medical categorization of deviant sexual behavior. In the 19th century, psychiatry identified certain sexualities as naturally deviant and pathological, like, for instance, homosexuality. These diagnoses suggested the existence of a bad nature, explaining such sexualities, leading to a creation of a classification of these sexual pathologies. Paradoxically, the act of classification magnifies the deviance, making it more visible, giving it a name. This medical classification of deviant sexual behavior also paves the way for the emergence of a counter discourse. Homosexuality, once medically disqualified, begins to articulate its own narrative, demanding acknowledgement of its legitimacy or naturality, often using the very vocabulary and categories initially employed by the medical institution. This medical discourse, initially crafted to produce and control homosexuality, paradoxically provides the discursive resources for homosexuals to shape and reformulate their identity. A key insight derived from applying Foucault to dissect the political dimensions of science communication is that it's not just a clash between two entirely distinct and incomparable types of knowledge, scientific and non-scientific, or even ignorance. Foucault demonstrates that both the construction of knowledge about sexuality and the resistance against that knowledge occur within the same sphere of understanding. It's not a straightforward clash of divergent knowledge types. Therefore, the soft power of science communication, according to Foucault, becomes a mixture of scientific and non-scientific discourses. Yet, asserting that the soft power of science communication results from the interplay of scientific and political discourse, simplified in cases such as homosexuality, prompts the crucial question of how this amalgamation generates specific power effects distinctive to scientific discourse. Bruno Latour provides valuable insights that can illuminate the distinctive role of science in soft power strategies for science communication. Quoting Latour, science is not politics, it's politics by other means, end of quote. This statement suggests that certain scientific discourses, apparatuses, and non-human entities reshape our conventional understanding and practice of politics. Power struggles among humans are not confined just to traditional means like speeches, laws, and policies, but extend, for instance, to scientific papers, vaccines, cells, laboratories, and animals. Latour contends that the very definition of human evolves with advancements in science and technologies, transforming human actions and consequently political and social behaviors. Scientific and technological innovations are not passive reflections of social and political relations. Rather, they actively contribute to reshaping them through fresh and unexpected sources of power. According to Latour, society and its politics are molded by non-human entities such as telephones, electricity, media, computers, trains, planes, etc., reinforcing and disrupting social ties. Science, Latour argues, generates new sources of power and legitimacy that cannot be reduced to traditional political codes. Non-human entities within scientific experimentation, such as Louis Pasteur, the discovery of microbes, exemplified this dynamic. Pasteur laboratory, though constructed by humans, becomes a space where the appearance of microbes is not entirely dependent on the scientist. That is, Pasteur cannot entirely make the microbe. That would be a fiction. Pasteur creates the conditions for the microbe to appear, but does not control entirely this appearance. Science, by dealing with the unexpected non-human entities like microbes, emerges as a potent force in soft power strategies by creating new elements of the world and changing the way the society is connected. The discovery of microbes, for instance, not only explains microbial diseases, but also transforms Pasteur into a figure with soft power, influencing institutions, garnering funds and reputation, and attracting like-minded individuals who recognize the universal benefits of his discovery. When scientists claim that science is not political, it holds true in a significant sense. Science does not conform to traditional political frameworks where politics is shaped by power relations among humans. The microbe, for instance, reframes political discussions, prompting political institutions to seek Pasteur assistance in addressing a sanitary crisis. In this sense, science functions as a politics by other means because it produces unforeseen consequences in the political realm. These unexpected outcomes compel a reconfiguration of the political landscape to accommodate the distinctive and unpredictable nature of scientific advancements. In other words, science soft power comes from its production of what is new. Public science communication plays I believe, a crucial role as a soft power catalyst for challenging and transforming political discourse by introducing new scientific concepts and objects, thereby ushering in new powers. This is the central argument of my chapter. Public science communication stands out as a key driver in revitalizing political discourse through the infusion of innovative scientific ideas, providing a meeting ground for science and politics accessible to diverse audiences. When individuals and states articulate their actions using scientific terminology, they engage in a process of reconfiguration and interrogation of what is like to be human. This transformative potential emerges as they navigate and renegotiate the boundaries between traditional political discourse and the evolving discourse that incorporates novel scientific vocabularies. Notable examples include Foucault's medical political framing of homosexuality and Latour's political portrayal of scientific non-humans in Pasteur's work, both illustrating instances of this renegotiation. In the case of homosexuality, the medical political categorization challenges the conventional notion of humanity, placing the homosexual, through scientific terms, closer to the inhuman. Paradoxically, this abnormal sexuality in the 19th century becomes a site of resistance against the oppressive norm associated with heterosexuality. Similarly, Pasteur's discovery hinges on the non-human nature of the microbe, impacting human life by enabling or hindering immunization. Science, in revealing how the concept of the human is intertwined with and questioned by the non-human or inhuman, becomes a source of soft power that rejuvenates political discourse. Public science communication serves as the public intersection of science and politics, giving rise to a new political language. Scientific discourse, when subjected to linguistic transformation propelled by political consideration, gains political significance and transformative potential. And like a technical language confined to producing scientific knowledge, this linguistic innovation within public science communication becomes a potent source of power. Thank you very much for your time. Here are my contacts.